Welcome back to the show, and I've got Jack Spurgeon here today. Thanks so much for being with us today. And we're going to talk about toy safety. It's the holidays, and there's always some fun, unique toys out there that could get us all into a little bit of trouble, and we just need to be mindful. So where are we starting? Are we starting with the Christmas story, you'll shoot your eye out, or are we starting with small part
Well,
toys?
actually, for all our youngsters out there and parents, we've been communicating with Santa Claus, so he's concerned about the same issues, age appropriate, and there are a lot of entries each year related to toys and toy safety, and we're talking 250,000 a year entries related to toys, and it's point specific, and falls and choking are our biggest issues, with 4-year-olds and younger being the biggest age
choking
category, the choking, and balloons are one of our big items that kids get choked on, either those that's been busted or those that's not been blown up yet. So, we need to be mindful of those things when we're talking about age-related toys that, have sharp points or loose objects. Magnets is another big problem. And then we're talking about the older kids too, with the bicycles and all the different electronic devices that move and they can ride, skateboards. So we need to make sure if we're considering those things,
Carts and
we get the safety equipment to go with it. So in 3 years and younger, then we look at choking being their biggest issue with the smaller pieces. And if you have more than one child in the house and the ages are different, then they've got different toys than the younger ones.
And that's the tricky part too, because when you do have more kids in the house, the younger ones tend to really think they can do what the older ones can do. And it's Christmas and it's hard to, so sometimes it leaves you in a hard spot when you're trying to get them things, but keeping it age appropriate is really the safest.
Yeah, and then when we're talking about when they're playing, and sometimes they'll lay their toys around and the younger ones gain access to them. And that's really a hard issue to deal with. So you just got to develop some kind of plans or instill in your older children that, your younger siblings could create a choking or a falling issue or whatever it may be with them. So, we kind of need to instill in them, the safety issues as well. But, Christmas time coming on, and we want to get special toys, and they say they want this or they want that because they make a Christmas list we know it's real long, and so they're not looking at the safety issues or what's age appropriate.
Right. You're just looking at what's on their list, and there are some really neat things out this year. When you mentioned the balloons, I was thinking I just saw a gadget. And it's not very expensive. I think it was like $6 thing, and I really thought about getting it for my boys that fills up the water balloons.
Right.
Have you seen this?
Yeah.
It's got all the and I thought, oh my gosh, my boys would love that. You hook it up to the hose, and then it fills up like 70 water balloons. And for anybody who's filled up little water balloons for parties, it is a tedious process. So. But yeah, the balloons, I hadn't really thought about that.
And then when you think about that, they take them out and they bust those balloons, and most of the time we don't pick up the pieces, especially when it's outside. And so your youngsters out crawling around on the ground and come across one of them.
You have to be careful.
Yeah. So, we got to consider those things. And we obviously want our children and be happy with.
Well, and some of the toys you mentioned, like the ride-on toys and some of these scooters, even at the younger toddler ages, the Jeep kind of cars and all that. All those things need to be plugged in, and that could cause some.
Well, you're talking about electrocutions with those things, with the chargers, so you got to be mindful where those are, because kids will get around the outlets when they're plugged in and get electrocuted, and it's shocking issues.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we need to consider is as parents and grandparents, is to check and see through the Consumer Safety Product Commission on what's been recalled in the past and what's some of the safety issues related and concerns, because some of them may be shocking, some of them may be potentially a choking issue or whatever it may be. And then you look at, even though we've got all the inspections in place, there's lead issues with some of the toys and stuff. So we got to be mindful of lead poisoning and so forth of that nature, which they try to, keep that from happening. But some of them skate through, and then you see a recall on down the road.
Wow, lots of good tips today. Thank you. Well, we all need to be really mindful this month when we're buying all of our little ones Christmas presents. I think probably the biggest thing is really just keeping them age appropriate and maybe talking to them, like you said, talking to the older ones about keeping the older toys away from the little ones. And
well, the other thing is when we get closer to the Christmas Day and the unwrapping and Santa's brought the gifts and all that, when they unwrap them, we need to consider the plastics that they may be wrapped in and the wrapping paper, that we discard that immediately after we unwrap those or whatever they're in, so that those don't become a play item and then become a choking issue or something of that nature.
Yeah, I understand. Well, thank you so much for being on, and thanks for sharing these tips today. And we'll be back in just a minute.